The digital scoreboards across every single stadium in Major League Baseball are currently catching fire, and the absolute center of this massive destruction is the most terrifying physical collision between the two greatest athletes on the planet. Aaron Judge just launched a monstrous home run with a terrifying exit velocity on the East Coast. And only a few short hours later, Shohei Ohtani stepped up to the plate and answered with an absolute cannon shot directly into the dark night sky over the Los Angeles Dodgers Stadium. A pure and brutal physical war is currently exploding across the entire country. The fans are screaming in absolute disbelief as the baseballs continue to fly out of the stadiums at record speeds. Will this angry and violent swing from the Japanese phenomenon be enough to crush the absolute physical dominance of the New York Yankees superstar, or is this just the bloody beginning of a ruthless race to the World Series championship? Before we expose the brutal biomechanical truth behind these massive home runs, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss our breaking MLB coverage. The entire baseball universe desperately needs to see the absolute truth about this massive and terrifying physical rivalry. There is absolutely zero room for any physical weakness or mental hesitation in this terrifying rivalry, because every single massive home run is not just a simple run added to the scoreboard. Every single time the baseball violently flies into the deep outfield seats, it serves as a direct and devastating psychological attack on the superstar standing on the opposite coast. The sports media in New York and the reporters in Los Angeles are constantly comparing every single offensive metric and creating a massive wave of daily pressure that is impossible to escape. This relentless media comparison creates an incredibly toxic and suffocating atmosphere inside both dugouts. When Aaron Judge destroys a baseball into the upper deck, the terrifying highlight is immediately broadcasted onto the massive video screens all over Los Angeles. Shohei Ohtani is forced to watch his biggest rival completely dominate the opposing pitching staff while he patiently waits his turn in the on-deck circle. You can physically see the intense focus and the pure anger building in his eyes. This situation creates an unbelievable amount of invisible pressure on the kinetic chain and the resting heart rate of the Dodgers superstar. When Ohtani finally steps into the dirt of the batter box, he knows perfectly well that he absolutely must answer the physical challenge. He tightly grips the heavy wooden bat, knowing that millions of demanding fans expect him to hit the baseball just as hard and just as far as the massive captain of the Yankees. This ruthless home run race is so incredibly brutal that it absolutely refuses to allow either of these massive superstars a single day of physical rest or mental peace. They are completely trapped in a violent and endless cycle of massive exit velocities and terrifying daily expectations. The psychological warfare between the East Coast and the West Coast is slowly draining their physical energy, but neither man is ever willing to surrender the offensive crown. Every single violent swing of the wooden bat is a loud and aggressive message sent directly across the country. The Los Angeles Dodgers and the New York Yankees are watching their franchise players push the absolute extreme limits of human biomechanics. Dave Roberts and the medical staff are nervously watching the resting heart rate of their designated hitter constantly spike due to this massive psychological burden. The manager knows that his superstar player is swinging the heavy bat with absolute pure rage and pure adrenaline. The tension is so thick and so heavy that you can physically feel it radiating through the entire stadium. The fans in Los Angeles demand total perfection every single night because the fans in New York are getting total perfection from Aaron Judge. The brutal reality of this extremely dangerous situation is that one of these massive physical specimens will eventually break down under the immense pressure. The human body is simply not designed to swing a heavy wooden bat with maximum violent force for 6 straight months without suffering a massive structural failure in the muscles or the joints. But neither Shohei Ohtani nor Aaron Judge cares about the severe medical risks right now. They only care about hitting the baseball completely out of the stadium and utterly destroying the defensive confidence of the opposing team. We need to completely step away from the noise of the crowd and step inside the dark video room to break down the pure biomechanical reality of these two massive swings. You cannot truly appreciate the historic magnitude of this legendary rivalry without looking very closely at the precise kinetic science behind the daily violence. Aaron Judge is completely destroying the baseball using the terrifying linear force of his massive upper body. When Judge steps into the batter box, he literally looks like a giant attacking a completely helpless target. He forcefully drives his massive cleats deep into the stadium dirt and pushes his enormous chest forward with terrifying aggression. The incredible bat speed is generated purely by his massive arms and his incredibly thick shoulders. He completely overpowers the opposing pitcher with absolute brute strength and sheer physical size. There is absolutely no trickery or deception involved in his offensive approach. It is pure and violent kinetic aggression designed to crush the baseball into dust. His physical stride is perfectly measured to maximize the brutal collision between the wooden barrel and the incoming baseball. When he successfully connects with the pitch, the sound echoes through the entire stadium like a massive explosion. The opposing infielders literally take a step backward out of pure fear, because the exit velocity is truly dangerous to their physical safety. But when you look closely at the offensive swing of Shohei Ohtani, you see a completely different type of biomechanical perfection. Ohtani does not rely on brute upper body mass to generate his terrifying exit velocity. He generates a massive amount of rotational torque from his flexible hips and his highly trained lower body. His entire kinetic chain is an absolutely flawless transfer of violent energy, starting from the dirt straight up through his core. He physically coils his body tightly like a heavy industrial spring and then explodes through the strike zone with terrifying surgical precision. His heavy wooden bat whips through the air with incredible speed and a completely perfect upward trajectory. Aaron Judge destroys the baseball with the sheer terrifying power of a physical giant, while Shohei Ohtani completely assassinates the pitcher with the precise physical mechanics of a flawless machine. Ohtani waits for the absolute last microsecond before unleashing a violent rotation that completely shatters the confidence of the entire defense. Both of these completely different kinetic approaches result in absolute devastation on the baseball field. If you want to see exactly how these two superstars completely break the laws of physics every single night, make sure you leave a comment right now and tell me whose swing mechanics you prefer. The true victims of this massive home run war are not the opposing fans sitting comfortably in the stadium seats. The real victims are the terrified pitchers who are forced to stand completely alone on the dirt mound and face these two physical monsters. You can literally see the absolute panic spreading wildly in the eyes of the pitchers when Judge or Ohtani calmly walks up to the home plate. The opposing catchers are constantly calling for sudden timeouts because their pitchers are visibly shaking and sweating heavily on the mound. The pitchers know perfectly well that a single mistake of one tiny millimeter will result in a massive and completely humiliating home run. The pitchers are completely losing their command of the strike zone because the psychological pressure of this rivalry is absolutely suffocating. They start deliberately throwing wild pitches into the dirt just to avoid giving up a massive hit that will be played on television all week long. This brutal and unforgiving physical rivalry between Los Angeles and New York is accidentally turning the rest of the league into massive collateral damage. The sheer physical violence of this daily home run race is forcing every single opposing manager in the league to completely change their defensive strategy out of pure fear. The opposing managers are completely exhausting their bullpen arms just trying to survive a single 3-game series against these two massive offensive superstars. They are burning through relief pitchers at an alarming rate because absolutely nobody wants to face the absolute physical wrath of a fully focused and angry superstar. The current absence of Shohei Ohtani on the pitching mound has accidentally created the absolute most terrifying offensive weapon in modern baseball history. Because he is strictly playing as a designated hitter right now, his body is absorbing a completely different type of kinetic stress. He no longer has to drain his massive leg strength by throwing 99-mile-per-hour fastballs from the pitching dirt. All of his terrifying physical energy and his intense mental focus is now entirely directed at swinging the heavy wooden bat. This highly focused physical energy is creating an absolute nightmare scenario for Aaron Judge and the entire New York Yankees roster. While Aaron Judge is forced to stand in the outfield grass and burn precious energy playing defense, Ohtani is resting peacefully in the dugout. He sits quietly on the bench and studies the opposing pitcher on a digital tablet, while preserving every single ounce of his physical power for his next at-bat. The massive shift in offensive power is completely visible on the daily exit velocity charts. Aaron Judge is suddenly facing the absolute most dangerous and fully rested version of his biggest rival. Dave Roberts and the Los Angeles Dodgers are slowly realizing that keeping their superstar completely fresh and entirely focused on hitting might actually be the ultimate tactical key to destroying the New York Yankees in October. The balance of power in the major leagues is constantly shifting violently back and forth between the East Coast and the West Coast with every single violent swing of the wooden bat. This terrifying and violent home run battle is just the brutal opening act for a massive historical collision that nobody can prevent. The regular baseball season is rapidly moving toward the most stressful and completely unforgiving months of the entire year. The New York Yankees and the Los Angeles Dodgers are currently locked on a direct and completely unavoidable crash course for the World Series. The entire baseball universe is holding its breath as these two massive physical specimens continue to trade catastrophic blows across the entire country. The ultimate question is completely tearing the sports world apart right now. Are you going to bet your money on the massive and brutal linear strength of Aaron Judge, or are you going to trust the absolute biomechanical perfection of Shohei Ohtani? This specific race will completely define the historical legacy of both of these massive baseball superstars. Who do you think will ultimately win this massive physical war? Will the brute strength of New York completely crush the surgical precision of Los Angeles when October finally arrives? Tell me your exact prediction down in the comments section below. Make sure you hit the subscribe button right now to follow every single explosive moment of this legendary baseball rivalry.